Welcome back. Okay, we are increasing the complexity as we go. This one's going to be a fun one. It's time to control the lighting controller in the room. We've got a TCP connected lighting device. We need to be able to turn the lights on, turn the lights off, set various preset levels. That means that we're going to be able to need to send commands across the network to this device. We got a whole lot of new things in this section. It's going to be a fun one. First of all, let's look at what we're going to accomplish. We are going to add and configure a block controller for the lighting system. We're going to configure 4 interlocking buttons for the lighting presets, similar to the interlocking buttons we've done previously. And we're going to add these to the room UCI layer. We also want to configure a fader to have manual control of the lights on the fader as well. So on the user end, there's just 5 controls, 4 presets and a fader. That's not too much, but on the Q-SYS side, it's going to be fun. There's going to be a whole lot of things to do.
What was that?
What was what?
This.
I was wiggling my fingers.
Yeah.
I think I was. It's like a greedy thing. Like I'm excited.
No, it just looked like something that you would cut from the final cut of this. I'm hoping it doesn't make it in there.
It's definitely making it.
Wow.
In. All right. New concepts for this section to take a look at. These are some fun ones. First, control banks. Banks of controls. Rather than add controls individually, we're going to add them in groups of controls, which gives us a little bit more advantage of things we want to do when those controls could be all affecting the same end result. We're going to use the control index variable, a brand new variable that you didn't know existed. We're going to start playing with arrays. Arrays are tables of information, and we're going to leverage those to use the banks of our controls to get information in brand new ways. It's going to be real flexible. Love it. We're also going to start formatting some strings. So that formatting string block looks a little bit like the concatenation block we were talking about earlier. It is still going to concatenate your text in new ways, but it's going to pull information from its various items and treat them in different ways as it appends it to your string. And we're going to write to our TCP connection. We are going to start sending commands across the network. A lot of new big concepts on this one. We've been building up to it for a reason. We've been saving it closer to the end of the course because now that you've got everything you've learned so far about event handlers and if-else statements and variables and functions, we're going to need all of that as we implement these more complicated blocks. So let's get ready. I'm going to grab my ball of power, or maybe
I feel like
squeezing a tribble or.
You look like George Burns a little bit. And
got it. Well then, yes, join me. Okay, so back into our design. We're going to add a new block controller for the lighting section. There is a lighting area right up here under the room controls. So we're going to drop out of emulation mode if you're there. We're going to add a block controller right up in this. I'm going to call this my lighting controls block controller. Let's open up this control panel. What are we going to add? We need to add those 4 toggleable interlocking preset buttons and a fader. So we're going to add a new control. This control is going to be called light presets. But rather than only add 1, as we've always been doing previously, we are going to add 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rather than add 1, 2, 3, 4 on top, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 going sideways. What's the difference? Well, there's a couple of differences in here. One of them is that it means that it'll automatically name them for me. That's nice. I don't need to call them light preset 1. It'll automatically iterate them as light preset 1, light preset 2, light preset 3, light preset 4. I like that. But more importantly, it lets us get an event handler that is true for any of these. So if any of these controls is triggered, I can have one event handler that activates multiple possible inputs at once. That's lovely. We didn't do this earlier because some of the times when we had controls we were adding earlier, we certainly could have made it a bank of like 2. If we had 2 things coming in, we're validating 1 or 2. Sure, I could have done if either of these is true, we'll do a thing. But then we would have had to also run like an if-else statement to say, well, if it was the first button that was pressed, we'll do that. And if it was the second button that was pressed, we'll do something else. So in that instance, we would have been removing some complexity by using the control bank just to add more complexity later on by adding an unnecessary if-else statement. So there's a time and a place for all of these tools. You know, know what is at your disposal, what is in your toolbox. Sometimes the right choice is to have individual controls where you can individually name them and have individual event handlers. Sometimes the right choice is to have a bank where you can choose to make an any event handler, which we'll see in just a second. And let's also add the knob that we need here. So let's add a fader. I'm going to call this my light fader. And we only need one of those. This is going to be a knob. A knob can be changed into a fader. It's a control that has more than one possible state. What do we want it to be represented in units as? I don't want it to be a decibel knob. We're not changing audio levels. What do we want it to be? Let's go investigate the device itself. What does the device want to receive? We gave you a little box called the Lighting API that tells us something more about this particular lighting controller. The really good lighting TCP controller, once again, Patrick's the CEO of. Thank you for making so many devices.
You're welcome.
Is located at 127.0.0.1. Again, that might sound familiar from our Kalarchik TV controls. That's just looking at your own device. On port 5103. It uses the following simple protocol. EOL equals quote /R/. All right, that's a lot of stuff. I don't know what that means. I do know what that means. We'll talk about it in just a bit. If you're going to set the level, then it wants to receive a command that says set LVL:XX. If you want to ask it what level it's at, you're going to send a command of get level GET LVL, get level. And it will respond to you a message that says LVL at XX. This is all, again, what we're getting from the manufacturer. This is the way it wants to be controlled and the way it's going to return the information to you. Well, it tells us if you want to set the level, you have to send this string SET LVL:XX. XX is the level. So that means we know we need to potentially send a 2-digit number to this device. If it's a 2-digit number, we know that we're never going to be sending the number 100 because that's 3 digits, right? So our possible levels that we could be sending this go from 0 to 99. That is what this device will accept as it's all the way off or all the way on. We are making some informed decisions based on the way that we are reading this information, and that will tell us what we need to do to make our controls operate properly in Q-SYS. So this knob that we've created, it's not going to operate in units of decibels. It's going to operate in integers. We need whole numbers. We don't want decimals in here because this is just going to be XX. We only want the whole numbers. And the max value will not be 100. It'll actually be 99 because we can't send 100. And the min value will be 0. That is our lighting fader. Let's add all of these to the UCI as we've done every other time. So the light fader, right now, when you drag it in there, it's going to look like not a control at all. It's going to look like a button when you pull it out of the block controller. Let's just go ahead and see that right now, oh, I see, it's showing itself as a text field. Nothing to be worried about there. Let's change its presentation style to an actual fader. Now we've got the fader that we would prefer that the client has asked for. So there's our fader. And then I'll also grab my 4 buttons for the presets. I'm going to make the top one the all the way on button. Let me zoom out a little bit now. This is number 2, that's number 3, and that's number 4. As always, let's just spend a couple of seconds making our UCI look good. These buttons all, I'm going to set them all to be 100 by 100 for consistency's sake. Let's pack them on top of each other. Move them in the middle, something like this. I think these are once again going to look real nice with a button 1 style. And then we gave you some more icons for these ones too. So top one has got a class of icon bulb high. Next one will give you the class of icon bulb medium, and then icon bulb low, and icon bulb off. Those are pretty clear visual demonstrations of what this is. Do we have a class for our fader as well? We sure do. Let's look for icon fader. I can do fader cap, or I can do fader slots. I like the cap one. That one's going to work out for me. And then I'm just going to adjust these a little bit, maybe distribute them so they got a little bit of buffer between the controls. Again, spend a couple seconds, make it look the way you want it to. Your UCI is beautiful.